I am here this morning with Laura Velez. Very excited to get the chance to speak with her a little bit and get to learn more about her story and her background. Um, just a quick overview. Laura is currently a transfer pricing associate with KPMG, uh, where she just started recently this year. Before that, though, she was an integral part of starting the Suffolk chapter for the FinTech Women Group. So we're going to dive into a little bit more of that as we go along. But Laura, again, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. And thank you again for being such a voice in the community for women, and especially women trying to get into such niche communities like fintech.
No, it's my pleasure, and thank you for uh, joining. I mean, I've got the easy part here. You're the one that's really kind of leading the way and being a trailblazer in the industry. So we appreciate all that you do as well.
Thank you.
So I guess to kind of set the stage, if you could, I think you've got a really fascinating kind of story and background. So if you could just kind of give us a brief history from kind of your childhood to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you say fascinating, I'm like, I haven't done anything too crazy. I think it's mostly the life of an immigrant, right? So I came to the United States when I was 13 years old. I didn't speak any English, and I started taking two ELL courses while I was in middle school. And one thing that I learned about the United States, and it is something that I hold so dear to my heart today, is this concept of giving back and giving back to people and trying to help others. And that is something that I got a lot of when I first got here. And throughout my high school years, I had an incredible support system that helped me apply to colleges, that helped me pay for my application to colleges. Because, like I mentioned, my parents are immigrants, and although they both held degrees while they were in Cuba, my mother was a lawyer, my dad was a chemical engineer. When they got here, that is not what they practice. That is definitely not what they do. And they have two jobs just to sustain my brother and I at the time, to go to good schools, to be able to take these ELL classes. So we had a different life. And that is something that I want to pay forward. So when I decided to go to college, I knew that the best way to improve future generations, the last name, would be through education. And then I thought, what would be a great way to also impact those around me and help them? And the more that I got involved in the finance sector at Suffolk University, the more that I noticed that women's voices were just not being highlighted as much. And it is nothing, and I do not believe that there is, although I do believe that there is an unconscious bias, do not
Yeah,
believe that people do it within a malice or anything. But unless these conversations are had, then nothing will change because it is unconscious for a reason until we make it conscious and then we decide to take action. And that is what I wanted to do with the chapter of FinTech Women. I met this women's a networking event at the university, and I noticed once I started going to their meetings that it was just such a supportive environment, not just for a student like me that was just trying to learn about topics in the FinTech industry, but also for other women. And I met women who were in their second, third careers who were trying to get into this industry. And although it is readily available, right? You can join an organization in the Boston area, like FinTech Women or Boston Women in Finance. Although those things are there, I think women struggle a bit more to find them and to believe in themselves. And something that I saw a lot of, even in my finance classes, was that a lot of girls don't speak up. And this is actually facts. There's like percentage of confidence, and something that I found funny I learned in one of my finance classes is that it said that men actually are more likely to invest, and they're also more likely to think that they will win on an investment. But women actually, when they invest, they make more money than men overall, even though they invest less. So it's just one of the little things that people don't really know, and it's something that we live with. And through this type of communities, through these type of conversations, although they feel sometimes forced and they feel uncomfortable, these are the type of conversations that you need to have with yourself and then with others.
absolutely. And one thing you mentioned that really resonated with me is that the thought that it is unconscious bias, right? And that the best way to not make it unconscious anymore is to put a spotlight on it and to talk about it, no matter how uncomfortable it is. And one thing I really kind of appreciate about not only your background, right, being a female in a male-dominated space, but also coming to the U.S. as a young child and having that immigrant background. But I also really appreciate the fact that you're kind of just getting started in your own personal career. It's easy to see a female CEO or a vice president, and it's hard to put yourself in that shoes when you're just getting started. But to be able to learn and speak with someone like you who's also just getting started and relieve some of that anxiety and nervousness, like you can do it too, and be vocal about it, I think really is really powerful. So again, I really appreciate all that you're doing so far. All right, so I know you kind of quick snapshot into your studies a little bit and learning English as a second language, but I guess more so when you came into Suffolk, can you tell us what really drove you to finance and the fintech space, or what was really the driving force there?
Yeah. So I always knew I wanted to go into something business related. The reason why is very different than it is now. At the time, I actually thought I wanted to go to law school, and I thought business would be my foundation. And that was not the case. So the more I started taking business classes, and this is something that I really applaud Suffolk University for doing, is that they just give you such a broad spectrum of classes when you first get there. So you really get a taste of everything. And when I started taking my classes, finance was something that always seemed appealing to me. And the reason why is not because numbers are super interesting to me, although they can be. It's mostly because I come from a country where people are mostly not financially literate. Where immigrants such as myself and my community are not financially literate. And that is something that I wanted to change. And that is something that I hope that throughout my career, I can help give back and change that for other people. Because I have seen the impact of just learning how to manage your own personal finances and learning how to take a chance on the opportunities that this country has to give you, which so many immigrants don't know that are there or don't know that exist. And that is something that really drove me towards finance, and that drove me towards the path that I was on. And so I met Jagathi, and Jagathi was a part of the Fintech Women larger organization. She actually founded it. And I remember hearing her speak, and she was talking about her story, and she was talking about how technology makes such an impact within the finance industry as well, to get these type of budgets, to get this type of monetary, like for example, even blockchain becomes currency in a lot of third world countries where their currency might be weak, things like that. So these type of financial technologies are just changing the world, not just for you and I on little things like Venmo and things like that, but also have a major impact on communities around the globe who are just starting to get developed in that sense. So that was something that just interested me so much. And then after I started going to their meetings, like I mentioned earlier, I noticed that there was a deficit within our community that needed to be filled. And that deficit was more women-led clubs, more clubs where we spotlight women, not to say that we don't have male speakers. We have them. They're fantastic. And we couldn't do this without allyship. And that is really the reason why we have so many male speakers as well. But it's just a place where women can feel open to talk about their experiences, their struggles, and then improve and see that other people who are more advanced in their career have also gone through that. And at least that is what I first started getting out of it. And then once we brought this club onto campus, I had so many girls talk to me, and they said, sometimes I don't feel like I can speak up in class, because a lot of the times it's a lot of talking back and forth. And I saw that women were not getting as involved in that conversation, because for the most part, women tend not to be as aggressive. And while our meetings, a lot of girls told me, I just felt like I couldn't speak up. And I said, that is something that we as women have to work on. That is not something that they're doing to us. That is something that we have also our own unconscious bias towards ourselves. And that is what we worked on too as a part of the chapter, building that confidence in young women.
Wow. No, that's amazing. Obviously, you hear about it, but being able to see it firsthand and have that kind of flip in your mind, like, all right, we need to make this change, and here's how we're going to do it. That's amazing. And so, for myself, coming from the staffing background, we see it all the time where even not so much as speaking out, but applying, where
Yes.
if there's a job opportunity, a male that's only a 70% fit will likely always apply for the role and think that they can do it. Whereas we've seen females are much more inclined to make sure that they're 100% fit before applying to any type of role. They're not as likely to take a chance on something that they're a 70% fit for, when in reality, they should be taking those same opportunities just like males do, and having that confidence. So really appreciate the spotlight you're putting on that from a college level, and obviously growing into the business world.
And I just want to highlight on that, by no means am I saying, again, that men do this to us. I'm saying that us as women have to work on this. And a lot of the times we can't work in this on an environment like a regular organization or a regular club that's not women focused, because you can't really divert the entire conversation towards this one subject. But when you have a room full of women who struggle with this and want to talk about this, then it's the perfect environment. And that is why we try to create that community.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so from my perspective, I come from more of an IT technical background. So fintech, just to me alone, is cumbersome, because, like you said, there's so many different ways that they intersect in the fintech space between finance and technology. So even just for someone who isn't aware or isn't familiar with kind of the environment and what it encompasses, now also pile on to the fact of a female who may be nervous and breaking into the industry, or not even knowing kind of where to start. So I'd be interested to hear from you as a young leader in the space. What would kind of be your best piece of advice for women that are looking to get into the fintech space?
I would say get educated. I think, and this is the concept that I live by, it is be a student of life, right? You're not just a student while you're at work. You're not just a student of the firm that you're in. You're not just a student while you're in college. You will always be a student, right? And it is up to you to get informed. And I think a lot of the time we hear a name, we hear a topic, like for example, blockchain, such a like just, you just say it and it's like 20 people pop in. They're like, oh, blockchain? But very few of them are actually informed on it. And they just hear what they see on the news. They hear, and by news, I mean the Snapchat news or something like that. So I think the best piece of advice that I have for women trying to get into this industry is get informed. And whether that is in your campus, like with FinTech Women, Suffolk University, or through larger organizations in the Boston area, please get out there, talk to people, because you will learn two things. You will either learn that you like what they're talking about, the field that you're in, or you will learn that you don't like it, right? And both are equally valuable. So I think as I see more women try to get into the space, and a lot of them are like, I actually didn't go to the meetings at first because I didn't know what fintech was, so I didn't think I had the skills. I think the first thing to know is that you always have the skills, right? And the second thing to know is that you lose nothing by trying. So if there is any topic out there that you're ever interested in, just look it up. Look it up. See, oh, okay, this is not that difficult. Go to meetings, talk to people. I have joined about 3 or 4 organizations around the Boston area, and not all of them relate to what I do. But through every meeting that I have gone to, I have met interesting people that have affected my life. And sometimes the effects might be small, whether it is like, I just had an interesting conversation and that made my day. And some things is like huge, like I met someone and they connected me with someone else who does work in my industry. So connections can come from any place, but they stem from curiosity, right? So we need to be curious.
No, that's great. And I think it can be a little bit overwhelming, right? Joining a group that you're interested in, but maybe don't know a lot about, and being vulnerable and just admitting, like, I'm just here to learn more. But I do think a great opportunity. We've mentioned it kind of throughout the interview so far, but the Boston FinTech Women Group has, I know they have an upcoming event, I think next Monday on the 14th for a blockchain event. I know you and I will both be there, but is there anything that you'd like to highlight about anyone interested in getting involved in the group, or looking to just kind of come and learn more?
Absolutely. So there's a couple of things that us as a group, we really focus on, right? One is advancing everyone's personal development. And I emphasize personal because everyone's career will be different, although we might be in similar sectors, right? And that personalized aspect also comes from your background. What do you have to offer? And something that we worked on a lot last semester with the club while I was president was having workshops where we worked on resume building, on interview skills, on also reaching out to people via LinkedIn. LinkedIn is such a great tool, right? And a lot of people don't utilize it as well as they could have. So I think that is one thing that we focus on. Another thing that we really focus on that I think a lot of people don't know about is getting informed. So I know I said earlier, get informed. You don't have to do it by yourself. It doesn't have to be an overwhelming topic. What we really are is a community, right? And you can join this community, come to an event, be quiet if you want, just sit in the background and hear. And you will see very quickly that it is a conversation. It is not really a presentation, right? So we're here to talk to you, to hear your story, to hear your thoughts, because as little as you think that you know, you probably know a lot more, and you can add a lot more than you think you do, right? So that is something that we really want to emphasize within the chapter. And then in terms of why join, I think, once again, you will either learn that you like it or you will learn that you don't, but regardless, you will have information that you didn't have before. And information is gold. So definitely just try to get involved. I hope to see anyone who is interested in the field, thinking about the field, or just wants to talk to other people, at this event next week. I know it will be great. There's going to be a great turnout. Also, there's a lot of leadership opportunities right now within the organization. So if you want to get involved in the larger organization, FinTech Women, that I'm a part of right now, you can be a volunteer at some of our events, like, for example, next week's event. Or if you want to get involved as a student, you're still in college, we actually are expanding throughout the entire Boston area. And myself with someone else, actually Gretchen Wilson, we're actually leading this effort towards expanding towards other colleges. So if you're a student at another college, whether master's or undergrad, and you want to take a leadership role, you want to learn more about this, know that you will not be alone in it, that we will help you every step of the way, and that you will make an impact.
That's amazing. Yeah, and Boston couldn't be a better place in terms of different colleges and universities, and just a huge student population. So that's amazing work that you and Gretchen are kind of doing on the side as well. Okay. Well, Laura, I want to be cognizant of your time. It's early on Monday morning. Before we leave, is there anything else that you'd like to add or highlight, whether it's Women in FinTech, the event coming up on Monday, or just overall kind of thoughts and departing words?
I really just want to thank you. Thank you again for the work that you do. Thank you for reaching out to me, for putting a spotlight on such a great organization. I know everyone who is a part of it is doing their best to try to improve not just women's lives, but the world, right? Because the more that there is equality, the more that us as humans will improve, and therefore society will improve, right? So thank you for just talking to me today and for coming to the event next week.
Of course. No, I've got the easy job. I just asked the questions, but I really appreciate you taking the time and jumping on with us. And I look forward to seeing you on the 14th at the blockchain event for Boston FinTech Women. And like we talked about, I'd encourage anyone to come. feel free to stop by and say hi to Laura or myself. I promise we do not bite, but even if you want to just come and sit in the back and listen, I think it will be well worth your time. So I look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Laura. Have a great day.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.